I never thought my fresh start in this quiet suburb would kick off with Karen calling the cops on me for my own damn front yard. The flashing blue lights painted my new house in ugly pulses while neighbors peeked from behind their perfect curtains. I stood there on the porch with my arms crossed trying to keep my cool as the officer approached with an awkward shrug. Karen meanwhile jabbed a finger at my flower bed like it was a crime scene, her voice dripping with fake concern for the community. She claimed my azaleas violated some obscure HOA covenant about approved plant heights and colors, which sounded insane even to the cop. I let out a long, slow breath, tasting the bitterness of fresh-cut grass and pure frustration in the warm afternoon air. My name is Joshua, and I had just moved into my late grandma's place to rebuild after a rough couple of years. This suburban neighborhood had seemed peaceful at first with its tidy lawns and friendly waves, but that illusion shattered fast. Karen ruled the HOA like a miniature dictator, clutching her clipboard and enforcing rules no sane person would care about. It started innocently enough with a polite notice about my grass being a quarter-inch too long for their standards. I chuckled at the absurdity while mowing it anyway because fighting over blades of grass felt beneath me at the time. But the fines kept arriving in my mailbox, each one more ridiculous than the last, until my savings began to bleed. One letter complained about my mailbox color clashing with the neighborhood palette, as if anyone noticed such nonsense. I sighed deeply while reading it on my kitchen counter, the smell of stale coffee mixing with my growing irritation. That's when I picked up the phone and called my estranged dad, hoping he could offer some legal insight as a retired attorney. He listened to my story in silence, then delivered his condition with that familiar detached tone that always cut deep. "I will help you fight this HOA mess, Joshua, but only if you actually bond with me first." The words landed like a slap, and I felt old resentment bubble up hot in my chest. Bond how exactly, after years of radio silence since Mom passed and you buried yourself in work? I hung up without agreeing because swallowing my pride felt harder than dealing with Karen alone. Things escalated quickly after that when Karen began showing up unannounced at my door with new complaints. She demanded I remove the small bird feeder because it might attract too many birds and disturb the aesthetic. Her smile was all sugar, but her eyes held that cold, calculating glint of someone drunk on tiny bits of power. I replied calmly while leaning against the doorframe, "Karen, the rules say nothing specific about bird feeders, so back off." She smirked and warned me the full board would hear about my attitude, which sent a chill down my spine. Soon rumors started swirling through the neighborhood like poison ivy, claiming I was disrespectful and probably hiding something shady. Neighbors who once waved now crossed the street avoiding eye contact, and the isolation stung more than the fines. One afternoon the sirens wailed again, and I watched from my window as a police car pulled into my driveway once more. Karen had called 911 this time, accusing me of blasting loud music and disturbing the peace even though I was at work. The officer looked embarrassed as he explained the complaint while Karen stood nearby, arms crossed, looking victorious. I pulled up my work security footage right there on my phone, proving I had been miles away all day. Still, the damage was done and whispers grew louder, painting me as the neighborhood troublemaker. I felt my blood pressure rise with every passing day, the weight of unfairness pressing heavy on my shoulders. That's when I decided enough was enough and invested in a body camera plus extra security around the house. Every single interaction with Karen got recorded now, crystal clear video and audio from my growing evidence folder. She sent more certified letters threatening lawsuits for non-compliance, her language getting more unhinged each time. I read them late at night, the glow of my laptop screen reflecting the dark humor in how petty this all was. Desperate, I reached out to Dad one more time, explaining how bad it had gotten with the police visits. He repeated his demand, but this time his voice cracked just slightly, showing a hint of regret. "Spend the weekend with me, Joshua, really talk and bond, then I will dig into those old HOA bylaws for you." I agreed finally, because the alternative was losing the house Grandma left me, and that hurt too much to consider. The drive to his place felt heavy with awkward silence, but we sat on his back porch as the sun dipped low. He poured us both a drink and started opening up about why he had pulled away all those years. Then he dropped the bomb that made my jaw hit the floor. He knew Karen personally from 20 years ago. Dad had served on the same HOA board back then and caught her falsifying minutes to push personal agendas. He had exposed her quietly, forcing her to step down temporarily, but the grudge apparently never died. She must have recognized my last name and decided targeting me was the perfect revenge after all this time. Dad rubbed his temples, looking suddenly older as those old memories haunted his face under the porch light. His past was coming back to bite him hard, but he agreed to help anyway, pulling dusty files from storage. We spent the weekend reviewing documents late into the night, the smell of old paper mixing with fresh coffee. He taught me the legal loopholes while we shared stories that slowly started bridging the gap between us. I felt a strange warmth growing despite everything. The bonding he demanded was actually healing old wounds. Armed with videos, old records, and Dad's testimony, we prepared a formal complaint for the full HOA board meeting. The night of the meeting, the community center buzzed with tension as neighbors filled the folding chairs. Karen strutted in wearing her usual power suit, clutching notes and flashing that fake confident smile. I presented everything calmly, projecting the body cam footage of her unhinged accusations for the entire room to see. Gasps rippled through the crowd when Dad stood up and revealed their shared history with cold, hard proof. Karen's face flushed deep red as she tried to interrupt sputtering denials that only made her look guiltier. She slipped up on the microphone, admitting she had personal issues with my family from years back. The words hung in the silent air like a confession no one could ignore anymore. Board members exchanged shocked glances before calling for an immediate vote on her position. She lost the chair in a landslide, her reign of petty terror ending right there in front of everyone. Karen stormed out of the hall muttering empty threats, but the door slammed behind her like final punctuation. Dad and I walked to the parking lot afterward, the cool evening breeze carrying a sense of real peace at last. He clapped me on the shoulder, admitting this whole mess forced him to face demons he had buried too long. Neighbors started approaching me later with apologies, their eyes avoiding mine in quiet embarrassment. The fines vanished from my mailbox and the yard inspections stopped like magic once the new board took over. Life in the suburb settled into a calm rhythm with barbecues and friendly waves replacing the tension. I sat on my porch one evening watching the sunset, the air sweet with blooming flowers and quiet satisfaction. Dad called more often now, our conversations easier. The bonding he demanded had actually stuck in the end. I couldn't help but chuckle darkly to myself at the irony of it all. Sometimes the only way to crush a power-tripping HOA Karen is with your own dad's haunted past coming full circle.